we're not looking to be orthodox about our ability to create low carbon footprint and green homes. We're looking to educate people and let people know that this is possible and you can do it beautifully, economically, and have impact.
Welcome to Home Green Homes Podcast. I am Izumi Tanaka, a green home advisor and a green realtor. Here I invite a variety of experts in the world of green homes and have conversations about how we can all live in healthy, resilient, and efficient homes. My guests provide insight in a wide range of topics, from designing, building, and living in green homes, purchasing or financing green homes and improvements, to how we can live to reduce the negative environmental impact from the way we live. My goal is to inspire and inform you about how we can make a difference in our own lives and our environment. Hi everyone, this is Izumi Tanaka with Home Green Home Podcast. Today I have Greg Roth. He is a senior designer for a company named Carbon Shack and Homefront Build. I'm going to let him tell us who he is and what he does and what his company does. So Greg, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for being on my podcast. So can you tell me a little bit about yourself, what your background is, and what you do as a senior designer?
Sure. Thank you so much, Izumi. I'm so happy to be here with you. So my background is in architecture and interior design. I have a Master's of Architecture degree from SciArc, and I did practice architecture for a number of years. But for the last 20 or so years, I've principally been in interior design. And most recently, I've been with Homefront Build and Carbon Shack doing design build and interiors. And the bulk of our work with Carbon Shack really is in the space of low carbon footprint work. So we are remodeling and building new homes with the goal of zero carbon footprint, both in the construction of the homes and in the operation of the homes after construction. So the materials and the processes that go into creating the homes, and then the materials and finishes that go into the homes themselves, all of that we consider in terms of how we can provide our clients with sustainable, green-oriented, and low-carbon footprint homes.
I find that extremely unique and very progressive for you to think about the process itself, because now we see a lot of practice in operational practice to make it more green and sustainable. But you're one of the few people that I have come across who are really considering the carbon footprint in the construction process, because that is a huge chunk of, as you know, the carbon emission. So Carbon Shack is a part of your Homefront Build, correct? Is it two separate entities, or is one nestled in another? And if you can talk about the genesis of Carbon Shack, which is quite exciting.
Sure. So we have actually technically, we have 4 sister entities, all working together, all housed in the same location, but they're 4 separate entities. So there's Homefront Build, which is a design build firm, which includes architecture, construction, and interiors. We have Carbon Shack Design, which is similar to Homefront Build, but really focused, as I said, on green building technologies. And then we have the Carbon Shack Showroom, which I'm sitting in right now, which is our showroom for the products we develop: furniture, lighting, tile, and fabrics. And then we have sustainablebuild.org, which is an open source website where we offer all sorts of information for consumers and professionals about low carbon options for homes. So we have all 4 operating at the same time. And the genesis of the companies, I would say, is that Homefront Build is the original company. And we started that about 20 years ago focused on Los Angeles vernacular architecture remodels. So we have built a very strong base of clients who come to us. They own principally historic homes or homes that are built in the vernacular styles of, that we find in Los Angeles, be it Spanish colonial or mid-century modern or craftsman, a wide variety. And most of those homes that are historic, the clients want to update them, but they want the remodels to be seamless. So we are really good at creating seamless additions and remodels that are within in keeping with the style of the original architecture. As part of that, we would occasionally find homes that are being taken down or in the process of our remodeling. We would find materials from these original homes that were in perfectly good condition, studs, windows, doors, that did not need to be thrown out. But generally, when people are demoing houses, they do throw them out. We stockpiled those so that in remodeling other homes, we could say, oh, let's be authentic and reuse those materials in this new home or in this remodel. At a certain point, we had so many of them, we thought we could actually build an entire new home for these things and not buy new materials and not truck in new materials and save the carbon footprint of that effort. And so we thought, well, let's try that. Let's do a sort of a case study in how low a carbon footprint we can leave in or create in building a home from scratch using as much of this reclaimed and salvaged material as possible. So all of that, those studs and all of those doors and windows, we've been able to show that we can build a new home and not have to, well, I should say, minimize the amount of new material, A, that goes into the home, and B, that is trucked in from afar. All of the material or a huge portion of the material just came from, a mile away or a few blocks away from another home that was being taken down. So that's what led us to Carbon Check, right? So we built one of these homes, and in building the home and using those materials and then integrating green technologies, we thought, okay, we've done this, we're doing this. All of that stuff is inside the wall, inside the ceilings, inside the floor. You can't really see it except for, the shingles and things that we've put on the exterior architecturally. How else can we bring into the home in a visual way this notion of low carbon footprint? So that led us to Carbon Shack design for interiors, where we're bringing in the finishes, not just in sustainable and reclaimed materials, but also in visual representations of the environment. So our motifs in the tiles and the fabrics and in the live edge of the wood that we use for some of our furniture represents bringing the outside into the home, and then serves as a reminder to the homeowners that we're connected to the environment. So it's a visual representation of what's inside the walls of the home. And then once we had developed that, we thought, let's spread that as widely as we can. And that resulted in sustainablebuild.org. So that's, in a very large nutshell, the evolution of it.
No, that's absolutely fascinating, and it's quite exciting. As you and I both know, that 40% of the waste comes from the construction industry, and that's one of the big things that I have been really paying attention to, the amount of waste that the remodeling business or even interior design industry creates. So this brings us to the CasaZero, which I had an honor and privilege of touring last week, and I was so utterly impressed and inspired. So tell me about how that project started. This is a project in Mount Washington in Los Angeles, and the funny story is that when I first got there and looked at the property, I thought, oh my God, this must be a restoration, because I knew that home from build as a restoration, and I was like, this must have been an old Spanish that you restored. And I, when I walked in, I think I talked to one of your architect, Derek, and I said, how old is this building? Is this 100 years old? And then he says, no, it's a new construction. So tell me
Yeah.
about the project.
Well, so I think I leapfrogged you on that because a lot of the last explanation was actually talking about
Yeah.
CasaZero. But yeah, so it's a completely new construction. It was a hillside location that people, I think, generally weren't building on because they found it a little tricky. But when you approach it from the perspective of doing a low carbon footprint home, there are ways I think that we looked at doing it that made more sense. So especially when you are using all of these salvaged and reclaimed materials, you're saving. We actually did a calculation. There's some preconceived notion about reclaimed materials that they're going to be more expensive. But in our calculations, which take into account the cost of transportation and the savings that we realize by, sourcing very, very locally, the costs are, if not equal, less than buying the material and having it shipped from Oregon or wherever the lumber might come from, for example. So we undertook this project, as I said, as a case study and as a showcase of what is possible.
Right.
One of the things that we architecturally came across was that when you use lumber reclaimed from homes that were built 100 years ago, there weren't standards for the dimensions of those stud members. So they're generally about 2 inches by 3 inches, but they vary. And so in order to sort of accommodate for that, we built the walls of the house thicker. So they're double studded, which also then allows for extra insulation. And it allows for space for systems, for piping and wiring to go in. But it then allows you to use these old studs in a sort of unique way that adds benefit to the construction and architecture of the home. And then because our companies are steeped in the history and vernacular architecture of Los Angeles, architecturally, we decided that we would sort of do an amalgam of styles to reflect that history of the company. So part of the architecture of that home is influenced by, say, shingle style, part by mission style. I mean, the facade is definitely a mission style facade. And then certainly there are elements of Spanish colonial as well. So we're sort of representing different aspects of the history of architectural buildings in Los Angeles. And we definitely consider it to be a modern home. I mean, the way that the spaces are laid out, the way that it's organized for daily living is modern. There's a definite flow between inside and outside with our wide bifold doors. And again, wherever possible, we integrated low carbon technologies and processes.
So, as I understand, the lumber and some material came from some local home that were being demolished, right?
Yes, yes. So nearly all the lumber, the shingles are reclaimed redwood. We have a source up in Northern California, so those were not local, but they were about as close as we could get them. And all reclaimed cedar or redwood. Custom furniture that was made from either reclaimed wood from a bridge, a redwood bridge in Northern California that was decommissioned. So we bought the whole bridge and we've milled the lumber, some of which is 12 inches square piers or bigger, and turned that into furniture. Or mahogany that came from church pews from a church that was remodeling and was going to throw out their gorgeous mahogany pews. So in both cases, that lumber was originally harvested over 100 years ago. So it's wood that you can't really get anymore. And rather than that going into landfill, we've now given it second life as incredibly beautiful furniture. So we're super proud of that. And in one case, in one of the bedrooms, we took the redwood and actually clad the entire interior of the bedroom in the redwood.
Yes,
So
yes, I saw.
it's amazing, creative, if I speak immodestly, ways of being, conservative with materials and resources.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of creative, what you did to the surface of the woods that you sourced from all these amazing places, tell me about those design that I know you love to talk about the biophilic design, the
Yes.
mycelium and the colony, the spores, and
Yeah.
tell me how that came about.
So again, this goes back to the notion of how do we bring a visual component of sustainability and low carbon footprint and connection to nature and sort of engendering stewardship of the environment
Mm-hmm.
into the home. I think I've spoken to you before about this notion of borrowing from the landscape. It's very present in traditional Japanese architecture.
Yes.
Making use of what's out there to bring it in and have it be part of your personal or home landscape. So we're doing that in the sense of microscopic imagery that is cellular, that's from mycelium, as you mentioned, that's, highlighting mildews and molds, things that necessarily aren't lovely to think about, but that are integral parts of how we live. Some of these things are in our own bodies. Some of them are in the forest. Many of them are in the forest. And if we can find imagery that's actually beautiful on the microscopic level and use that to make patterns for carved into the wood furniture or printed on our hemp fabrics or glazed onto our tiles, then we can bring that imagery into the home in really, I think, unique and beautiful ways. So that's kind of what we've done in this house, everywhere we could.
Yeah, it's absolutely unique and amazing. And you would think that what bacterial colony? How could it be? And it really is beautiful. I think for the audience, you really have to go look at the website see some pictures, which I will mention later. But I'm just curious, I mean, this is a very unique process that I think you guys developed as, sourcing the material from different reclaimed woods and different, like you said, bridge or church. Now, what were some of the challenges that you may have encountered during the process? Was there any roadblock that you encounter that you can speak of?
Well, I would say yes, there were different roadblocks along the way. On the one hand, we wanted to follow the certification processes for LEED, and those were very stringent and requiring a lot of work and effort. And in some cases, the processes don't actually recognize, didn't then, I think it's changing a little bit, all of the different elements that would go into the case study that we did. So that was a challenge to get the certification board to recognize that, like I can't think of any specifically, but the processes that we saw as contributing to low carbon footprint, like reclaimed wood for the studs, for example, would count towards that. So that was one sort of challenge. Then in things like I would say that when we're working with subcontractors, many of whom are, in general sense, used to things that they know.
Right, exactly.
It can be challenging to get them to try something new, right? Because there's a learning curve, and learning curves always cost more. So we are lucky enough to be able to work with people that we've known for many, many years and trust us, and we trust them, and they're willing to take that risk, but not always, and with some limited success. For example, the HVAC guys that we worked with on this project sort of made some missteps that we had to then go back and revisit. And some of it was granted unknowable because once the house is built, it operates sometimes differently than you plan for. So that was a challenge. But then in terms of materials, like for example, the reclaimed church pews have a certain shape and dimension to them, and to plane that material and get out whatever nails and screws and get it to be a uniform thickness for the cabinetry, our cabinet maker, pushed back a little bit on that. But in the end, we were able to figure out a way to make it work, and the result is incredible. So some challenges like that, for sure.
Yeah, I'm impressed at how you are really pioneering this whole process of, utilizing what's available instead of having to go source something brand new from somewhere far away. But in terms of like permitting or inspection process, were there any challenges, or were they pretty much considered the normal process?
I think that the process itself was fairly normal. I think that there were some instances where the inspectors wanted more information about the new products, but we were able to provide them. It just meant that the process was a little bit more protracted. Yeah, because when you're dealing with newer technologies that they're not familiar with, they just want to make sure they understand before they can prove it. But since it was all within the scope of acceptability, we didn't really, in the end, have any issues.
Yeah. So I understand that CasaZero has been certified as a LEED Platinum. Is that correct? Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's one of really a handful of homes in the Los Angeles area that have received that certification. So we're very proud of it.
Yes, indeed. So what do you think were the lessons or with this case study project? What did you learn, and how can you move forward with whatever that this project provided you with? And what's your vision? Do you think that we can promote this type of construction process in general, or what is your company's vision?
So I think what we've learned is that we can do it, that we can build homes and remodel homes using these reclaimed materials. I think a lot of the time when people hear about green building and using reclaimed and recycled, they envision a sort of hippie granola 1960s take on earth-friendly architecture. What we're promoting is something different. It's can be luxurious. It can certainly be beautiful and contemporary, and it can be very comfortable as well. So that's one thing that we learned. We can actually achieve that fairly easily. I think when we look at things like the finishes of the home and the interior design, that is a prime example of that. We are very, very keen on hemp fabrics. Hemp is one of the most sustainable commercial fabrics available. To create 1 pound of hemp requires 40 gallons of water, versus 1 pound of cotton requires 2,500 gallons of water. So right there's tremendous savings for the environment. And hemp comes in a huge variety of textures and weaves. So we're able to use hemp in upholstery, in window coverings, in a lot of different ways that create a beautiful home. So we're very excited about that in and of itself. So our vision is to keep doing this and to, get this idea of sustainable low carbon homes out into the marketplace. And I don't want people to think because we did this home where we basically rolled out sustainable, environmentally friendly, low carbon products and systems everywhere we possibly could, that's the only type of project we undertake. If you have a remodel and really the only thing you are interested in in terms of low carbon impact, or that you can afford, is to put proper insulation into your home. That makes a huge
Mm-hmm.
difference in your energy bill and consumption. Let's do that. We're not looking to be orthodox about our ability to create low carbon footprint and green homes. We're looking to educate people and let people know that this is possible and you can do it beautifully, economically, and have impact. You know, just insulating your home has an impact. Great. If you can do the entire home in all of the ways that we did CasaZero, that's an even bigger impact. But not everybody is interested in or capable of doing that. We will meet you where you are.
That's very, very impressive and inspiring. I really hope that I will be able to work with you guys and do some of the projects.
Yeah, we would love
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
We would
yeah.
love
Well, tell us where we can find what people can find you. I know how to find you, obviously, but let's promote your firm a little bit.
Sure, great. So we're at homefrontbuild.com. That's our more, our original company with more
Mm-hmm.
in the realm of traditional remodels. And then carbonshack.com is our design build firm for the sort of green, low carbon footprint work. And then we have carbonshackshowroom.com, which is our showroom for, as I said, furniture, tile, lighting, and fabrics. And we are also, we just opened our new showroom on Cypress Avenue in Cypress Park area near Mount Washington. And then sustainablebuild.org, where we have calculators. Actually, these are open source calculators for people to go put in their particular information about their home and find out what impacts they can have on their carbon footprint just on the computer, just figuring out based on the information that they put in. It's super easy to use, and I think very useful for homeowners and professionals.
That's amazing. And I would have to plug that if you go to Carbon Shack website and look at what we do tab, and there is a series of videos that you can watch the process of CasaZero, how you guys put it together, and it is absolutely amazingly inspiring. And
Thank you.
I highly encourage everybody to watch those videos. And
Thank
thank
you.
you so much, Greg. I'm so honored to know you guys, and I'm really grateful to have you in our ecosystem. So
Thank
thank you
you.
so
Thank you
much.
so much, Izumi. I appreciate it, and I'm so happy for the opportunity. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. This was Izumi Tanaka with Home Green Homes Podcast. Until the next episode.